Hey guys, it's Matt here. Another photography styled video, but for smartphones. Today we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 photography tips that I have for you guys on how to take better pictures on your smartphone. So let's jump into it. Okay, actually diving into the tips, number 1 is framing. Framing is so crucial when you're taking a picture, and it's normally that deciding factor which actually makes the picture a good picture, because a lot of people will take different pictures, and normally when you come together it's like, oh, how did you get that shot? That's a better picture than my picture. The reason for that is the framing. Everyone takes generic pictures that are waist high or chest level high, and it's boring. You know, everyone can take that picture. You want to experiment, you want to get down low, you want to go off to the side, try and position the thing you're picturing in different ways and just see what works best for the circumstance. Nothing can be determined as a rule. It's purely just trial and error. So just go ahead, take different angles, go through them all and see which one actually looks the best. And one of the most important things is don't go ahead and delete photos too quickly, because, you know, take into account they can be reframed and cropped after you've taken them. So just don't go ahead and delete some photos that could turn out pretty good with some minor editing. Tip number 2 is create depth. Don't just go ahead and take a bland photo of an object against a wall or a person against a wall. Actually create some depth to it, because a lot of smartphone cameras have very flat images, and so they just look a bit boring and there's no depth to them, there's no cinematic look. And in order to try and enhance that a little bit more from a smartphone is to actually put things in the foreground, put things in the background, and try and sort of layer your shot. So if you're taking a picture of a person, try get something in front of it. Try take a picture through something, through a fence, or with a tree slightly in the side. Try and actually create the depth that there is distance between you and the person and the background behind that person, because it really makes the person stand out, and overall it just makes the whole picture look so much better. Especially if you're taking a picture of like a car or something, try and get some lamppost in, or try get a low down shot that's maybe wide angle if you have a wide angle lens, and try and create that depth. Now tip number 3 is to do with using night mode. So maybe in the day it's not too bad if your hand's shaking around a bit, but there's nothing worse than taking a low light shot with shaky hands, because that will go ahead and blur your image. It's normally taking long exposures, and so you're not going to get crystal clear results. And so the best thing I can say, if you don't have a tripod, is try and lean your phone against something. When I was on a trip a while ago in the Lake District, I actually leaned my phone on a street sign. So there's actually like a wooden post with a sign, and I just balanced my phone there, took a long exposure night mode shot of a boat, and it turned out pretty damn good. And that's because the phone was so still. I can guarantee if my hand was shaking there, it really wouldn't look as good. It wouldn't look as clear. The boat would be blurry. And so it's really important to try, and even if you get down low, balance your phone on something. If there's like a pillar or a tree or some sort of branch, whatever it may be, even if it's like a rock, make sure you've got a phone case on and try and balance it in order to get a more still shot. Tip number 4 is lighting. Lighting's super important. It tells the story, it creates the look of your image second to framing. And so it's super important to make sure you have good lighting. If you're taking pictures indoor, don't get direct lighting pointing at a subject. Try sort of position off to the side, similar to I have now. So I've got some light coming in here. I've got some shadows on this side. And then I've also got a window, so it lets in some natural daylight as well. You can also go ahead and use that if you don't actually have some proper lights, but really any light will do. Even if it's artificial, just switch on your main lights, use a lamp, just try and get as much light into the shot. And even if you have warmer lights like in the background here, it can really add some depth and enhance the image. So just adding a few lights in the scene, or even if you have some sort of color changing lights, that can spice up the image so much more. And if you're out and about, try and don't take pictures around sort of noontime when the sun is directly overhead, because you're not going to get any shadows, you're not going to get any depth, and everything's going to look super flat and artificial. So make sure you do it at a pretty decent time. A really good time is always when the sun is going down or when it's coming up. You're going to get that golden hour, and overall it can make images look a lot nicer, but it doesn't have to be around that time. Make sure if the sun is up in the sky, just kind of position off to the side. Just try and get different angles depending on your situation. If you're taking a picture of a person, try get the person so their face is kind of lit, but not direct on. Try get it sort of, so it's off to the side. And if you're taking pictures of, let's say, an object, you want to make sure the background behind that isn't lit. just so it helps stand out a lot more. So if you have like a darker background, try and make sure it's distanced away so the light doesn't go ahead and hit that background. So then it just makes the foreground stand out so much more. Tip number 5 is use some of the free apps available. There's Android and iOS apps that are just great for enhancing your photos. If you want to add that sort of orange and teal look, there's a great app called Orange and Teal. It's only available on Android, but it really does spice up the images. I've used it a bunch on my Instagram, and it can make those blues look more turquoise and the images look more cinematic. But there's a bunch of apps for both platforms, Android and iOS. You've got Google Snapseed, where you have options to correct distortion. You can go ahead and obviously change all your exposure settings, contrast, your hue. You can go ahead and actually adjust all the colors and just make it exactly how you want it. There's also Lightroom. Lightroom is actually free on smartphones, so you don't actually have to pay for that. You should go ahead and get that. That's actually pretty crucial if you're editing photos. Make sure you edit them before you go and import them into the app, because you'll just have more control over how much you tweak about the photo. And if you want to add some more artificial looking things to your images, you can even download Lightleap. They have a bunch of filters. You can add shadows and like window effects, flares, or even change out the sky. That might be a bit extreme for some of you, but it can actually be pretty handy, especially when the weather's terrible. You can replace that gray sky with something that looks nice and blue. If you're taking lots of portrait shots and you don't have the best camera in the world, Remini is a really great photo enhancer. It does wonders. It can make a really blurry, bad looking image into a super crispy, awesome looking image. So go ahead and check some of those apps out. There's so much in terms of apps that can just enhance your pictures. So make sure you play around and try some of the free apps that I suggested in order to make your pictures better. But hopefully if you take some of these tips into account, you can spice up your photography game, even if you're using a smartphone, and hopefully you can get some pretty good results. Anyway guys, that is pretty much it. Let me know down below how you got on with some of the tips. If you want to share some of your photos, you definitely can do that in the comments down below, and feel free to just mention anything. If you have any more tips or you're a little bit more curious about something, just let me know. I'm happy to respond. And also, if you go ahead and follow me on Instagram, you can check out some of the photos I've actually taken from these smartphones, so from the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the Pixel 4a 5G. You can go ahead and do that. But thanks so much for watching. I'll see you later. Peace.